I live in a rural area where the nearest neighbor is a mile away. Last October, my motion sensor porch light started turning on at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night. I assumed it was a deer or a stray cat, so I ignored it for a week. But on the eighth night, the light didn't just flicker on, someone began knocking softly on the wood of the front door. The knocking was rhythmic, 3 slow taps, a pause, then 3 more. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The porch light was on, but no one was there. Just as I turned to head back to bed, a wet, heavy thud hit the door from the outside, like a slab of meat being thrown against it. I looked again. A single, muddy handprint was smeared across the glass. I called the police, but being so isolated, they took 40 minutes to arrive. By then, the handprint had dried into a crusty gray film. The officer did a perimeter check and found nothing except for a set of barefoot tracks leading from the woods to my porch. The terrifying part? The tracks didn't lead back out. They stopped right at the crawlspace vent under my kitchen. The police checked the crawlspace, but found it empty, though they noted the dirt looked disturbed. I spent the next night at a hotel. When I returned the following afternoon, I found a small gift on my kitchen counter, a Polaroid photo of me sleeping in my bed from the night before the police came. On the back, written in shaky charcoal, were the words, "You breathe so loudly." I moved out that same week. While packing, I pulled the rug back in the living room and found a loose floorboard I'd never noticed. Underneath wasn't just dust. There was a nest made of my old clothes, stolen from the laundry, and a collection of my discarded toothbrushes. He hadn't been coming from the woods every night. He had been living under my feet for months. The police took the Polaroid and the nest for DNA testing, but the results came back to a John Doe with no records. I stayed with my parents in the city, thinking the distance would keep me safe. I changed my number and deleted my social media. For a month, life felt normal again until I received a physical letter in the mail with no return address. Inside the envelope was a single strand of my hair and a handwritten note that read, "The new floor is colder than the old one." My heart dropped. My parents' house was built on a concrete slab. There was no crawl space here. I realized then that he didn't just want a place to sleep, he was following the trail I left behind, moving through the shadows of my life. I became obsessed with security, installing cameras in every corner of my parents' home. One night, while scrolling through the footage, I saw a glitch. At 3:15 a.m., the backyard camera cut to static for 10 seconds. When the image cleared, a figure was standing directly in front of the lens. He was wearing a mask made of what looked like my old missing sweaters, stitched together. He didn't try to break in, he just stood there holding a sign that said, "I found your new toothbrush." I called the police again, but he vanished into the tree line before they arrived. The lead detective told me off the record that this looked like predatory nesting. The intruder wasn't a burglar, he was a collector, and I was his primary prize. I eventually moved across the country, changed my name, and lived in a high-rise apartment with 24-hour security. It has been 3 years. Sometimes when it's very quiet at 3:15 a.m., I swear I hear a soft, rhythmic tapping on the drywall behind my headboard. I tell myself it's just the pipes, but I never look behind the furniture anymore. Some things are better left in the dark.